This week happened to be Thanksgiving and I put out a bunch of new fragrances in the collection, so stay tuned. Hey, what's going on? Hunter here and welcome back to my channel where I upload weekly fragrance content. So of course, just go ahead, hit the subscribe button down below and also make sure to follow me over on my Instagram page. Now, another week obviously means another weekly fragrance rotation, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with this series, but if you happen to not be, we basically just go over what fragrance I wear on each day, how many sprays, the kind of weather, and of course, if that particular fragrance got any compliments or not. So let's get right into Sunday. Now, Sunday was in the low 50s and it was kind of sunny outside, which was nice. And I saved this fragrance for Sunday for a particular reason because it's a very daring fragrance and the kind of fragrance you don't really want to wear out in and around the public and such. So it is actually the brand new release, or it's actually a relaunch from Imaginary Authors, and this is Bull's Blood. Now just think about that name for a moment there. Bull's Blood, guys. That is the imaginary note in this. Of course, you do usually have geranium, rose, patchouli, etc. But this is extremely potent, extremely daring. And when I smell this, it almost kind of smells like something that when you apply, it actually boosts your testosterone levels. A very, very masculine, manly fragrance. And on that day, I only did do 3 sprays of Bull's Blood, and 3 sprays was probably even more than enough. And you know me, I usually go heavy on the trigger, but with this one, you definitely had to be careful with how many sprays you do. Now, the way it kind of smells to me is if you ever had a nosebleed in the past or whatever, and you smell the blood, it almost has like this irony kind of smell to it. That's exactly the vibe that this gives off. But you, of course, do have that earthy patchouli. You have this very kind of earthy, dusty rose also, which kind of works perfectly along with the geranium, of course. And honestly, not a fragrance that's going to be for everybody, of course. It's more so like a work of art, in my opinion. And obviously got no compliments on the day. Wasn't really around anybody. And if I was, I probably would get some weird looks. So heading into Monday, it was in the mid 40s and cloudy outside. And I pulled out yet again another brand new fragrance in my collection that I've actually wanted this fragrance for actually a few years now, and finally got a bottle, pulled the trigger on it, and it is, of course, Menthol's Intense Cafe, one of the best coffee-based fragrances on the market, of course. If you are not familiar with this DNA, it's, of course, rose, coffee, and vanilla. It's very creamy and almost kind of smells more like a latte than like a roasted coffee. And on that day, I did do 8 sprays of Intense Cafe. Of course, when it comes to Menthol's, these are usually beast mode fragrance. But on that day, I was kind of like, I did 8 sprays of Intense Cafe and it's kind of not performing as I was expecting it to be. I wasn't quite sure if I was going nose blind to it or actually was weak. Maybe the newer batches are kind of like more watered down perhaps. But that wasn't the case because around like 10 hours after applying this, like literally around 10 hours after applying on skin and clothes, I did get a compliment from a coworker who usually never really compliments me. She kind of approached me and said, "Hey, what do you got on? It smells good." And I told her what it was. And I said, "It kind of smells like a latte, doesn't it?" And she's like, "Wow, it actually does. That's exactly what I was thinking." So this stuff must have still been projecting, still having a good sillage, and I guess the performance on Intense Cafe is still fantastic. It's gonna be a huge staple in my rotation during the colder months whenever I want that kind of latte vibe. So for Tuesday was in the low 40s and very rainy outside, and I put out another new fragrance in my collection. It's actually a cologne that I picked up from the local rag store, and it is Milestone Perfumes, and this is of course tax code. Now, this has been getting a lot of hype in around like the Facebook groups, etc. It is, of course, as you can tell, a clone of Yves Saint Laurent's Tuxedo, which is one of my favorite kind of like higher end designer fragrances. Even though I actually do not own a bottle of Tuxedo, unfortunately, I need to get a bottle soon. I have tested it, I have worn it, I have decants of it, and love the scent profile. And this one is fairly close. It's not as potent or strong as Tuxedo, but I got this bottle on clearance for $12.99. I was like, what the heck? Might as well pick it up, right? And if you aren't really familiar with Tuxedo, it's a very spicy, earthy patchouli DNA. So for the patchouli lovers out there, you'll love this scent profile. Now, on that day, I did do my usual 8 sprays of Taxco, not really knowing what to expect with the performance. Wasn't sure if it's gonna last an hour, if it's gonna last 10 hours. And I know when I posted this as my scent of the day on the community tab, some of you guys actually commented saying the performance wasn't the best. However, around 6 hours after applying Taxco, I did actually get a compliment from a coworker. She's like, whatever you're wearing smells amazing. And I told her what I was wearing. And it's funny because that coworker in particular is always one of the coworkers that asks me how much whatever I'm wearing and how much it costs. And I'm usually wearing like a very expensive fragrance when they ask me that, like $300, $400 bottle. This, I was like, yeah, this is only like 12 bucks. She was kind of like shocked how cheap it was and how good it smells, and saying, yeah, that's actually a good value then. Of course, if you are looking for tactical, hit up TJ Maxx, hit up Marshalls. They are popping up like crazy, along with other colognes from Milestone Perfumes, which I actually picked up as well. So for Wednesday, it was in the high 40s, and yet again, another rainy day. And I put out a tea-based fragrance because I was just in the mood for it, and this is by far probably my favorite tea fragrance within my collection, at least, and it is coming from Mosque Milano. This is, of course, Russian tea. If you're familiar with my channel, I've hyped this fragrance up quite a bit. It's a very complex tea-based fragrance, and there's so much going on, and you can actually pick up each note vividly in this fragrance. That's how well blended it is. Of course, you do get raspberry, you get leather, which might kind of remind you of like Tuscan leather. That's not the case. You get mint, you get that black tea note. So much going on, and it's fantastic. Now, on that day, I didn't really do much on Wednesday. I did do 4 sprays of Russian tea just to have a nice kind of cozy tea-like scent bubble around me just to relax and chill. Got no compliments on that day, even though in the past, people have sort of lost their mind over Russian tea. And I almost thought about making this my signature scent back in the day. That's how much I love it and still love it. Of course, whenever I'm in the mood for a tea-based fragrance, I usually always reach for this beauty. So Thursday happened to be Thanksgiving, so I hope all you guys watching this one had a great Thanksgiving, ate some great food, and of course reminisced on being thankful for things in your life and your life in general. I know I certainly did and enjoyed the day. And on that day, of course, I wanted to pull out something sort of gourmand, and that's exactly what I did, and I went with by Kilian's Angel Share. Now, of course, I share my scent of the days on my community tab and on Instagram. And I shout out to all you guys that also rocked Angel Share with me. We were smelling fantastic for Thanksgiving. A lot of you guys had the same exact idea in mind, going with this absolutely awesome, boozy, woody, spicy fragrance. And for Thanksgiving, it was in the high 40s and kind of cloudy outside. Now, on that day, I actually did do a little bit less than my usual spray routine. I did around 6 sprays. I didn't really want to offend anybody. I was around a bunch of different people for Thanksgiving. Got no compliments, so I guess Angel Share didn't really please everybody, or was kind of just like muted behind the smell of all the good food. But yeah, 6 sprays for Angel Share for Thanksgiving. One of the perfect kind of fragrances for that situation, that environment, and that holiday. Of course, let me know down below what you guys rocked for Thanksgiving. I'm very curious. So for Friday, believe it or not, I actually did a fragrance-free day because I kind of woke up with this headache, and I was like, you know, I'm gonna take a break from fragrances. It's always good to actually take a break from fragrances instead of just wearing something like literally 24/7. Like me, I'm always smelling something when it comes to like obviously testing fragrances, wearing fragrances, etc. Just always around me, always breathing in the aroma, like literally 24/7. I'm not even kidding. So it was nice to sort of take a fragrance-free break on Friday, and I suggest a lot of you guys do that as well. And it kind of makes you miss fragrances more when you're, instead of just being consumed by it all the time. But for Saturday though, wrapping the week off on Saturday, it was in the low 40s and actually sunny outside. And I put out again another brand new fragrance in my collection. And this one surprised me quite a bit. And it's coming from Guy Fawkes, and that is the brand new Vince. Now, you guys may have never heard of this house before. It is sort of like an indie house, a smaller brand, but they have some fantastic ones. And this is my 3rd one from the collection and by far my favorite. So Vince literally opens up with this very, very explosive, vibrant lime note, along with some grapefruit, but primarily it's lime. You get this very refreshing minty gin and this very aromatic, well done lavender. Absolutely love this fragrance. It's gonna be huge in my rotation during some of the warmer months. That's more suited for it. And for the price, you literally cannot beat it. I think it's around like 50 or 60 bucks for a 50 ml. And it sort of does remind me, or it's in the same realm of something like Abercrombie & Fitch's Fierce and Percival by Parfums de Marly. So if you love that DNA, you will absolutely fall in love with this one. It's much more vibrant than both of those. I believe these are eau de parfum, but this stuff was actually very, very potent. I actually sprayed this on a black hoodie and it left a mark. That's how strong this is, even though the color of the juice is sort of like a yellowish clear. But if you look at that juice, it actually looks like an extrait. Very, very oily in there, but yeah, fantastic launch from Guy Fawkes. Shout out to them for this beauty. But On that day, I actually did do 5 sprays. Didn't really do much on Saturday, so no compliments, but man, I can definitely see this one being a huge compliment magnet. So that's gonna do it for my weekly fragrance rotation. As always, let me know down below the fragrances you guys wore throughout the week. And besides that, leave a like, subscribe if you guys haven't already, and you already know I'll catch all of you back here in my next upload. Take care, everybody.